and that's how we're getting those spot fires, and that's what firefighters talk about. The real danger with a wind-driven fire is you get spot fires. That's how fires jump roads, jump highways, and leave some homes standing and others just burn to the ground. If we turn around, want to show you some of the fire crews with their engines that are cruising up right now. That is a Los Angeles County fire engine that is just arriving here to High Point Drive. And those homes there on the other side of the street, at least 5 of them that are now complete devastation, nothing left standing with those 5 homes. Fire engines and crews, they've been making circles, working to save ones that aren't burned, but at this point, because of the wind, because of the size of this fire, there's only so much that they can do. We'll keep you posted, but that is the very latest from this location. Again, High Point Drive and La Cumbre Circle. I know so many people at home, or at least being evacuated at friends' homes, are wondering what happened in their neighborhood. This is the reality of what we're watching. Philip and Leslie, back to you.
And Mark, as we've said before, and we have people asking, and we want to make sure you have your evacuations in place, right? I mean, so many people have already left the area. You and your crew, you have a way out.
Yeah, your audio cut out a bit there, but yes, we do have our truck a little bit down from here on High Point Drive, facing out with our nose out if we need to get out. The good news is these are wide streets and the evacuations had already happened, so we're not dealing with people who live in this area still trying to leave their homes. They've all left, so the traffic is light, and if we need to leave, we can.
All right, Mark, thank you very much for that. And we're going to go to Scott Reif in Air 7 HD. He is nearing the Sylmar area. That is where the creek fire is burning out of control. You can see it in the distance there, Scott.
Yeah, you certainly can. And boy, it has picked up some steam since we saw it earlier this morning. We just went to Van Nuys Airport and got fuel and came back. And I tell you, unhealthy air, for those with respiratory problems, this is a huge issue because visibility was down to just about a mile at Van Nuys Airport just because of the smoke. We got out of the helicopter. It was like breathing it right next to the fire line. So do be careful. Just beware. If you have a respiratory problem, that area of Van Nuys down into a portions of Burbank, even towards the Northridge area, it is going to be very, very tough today. Now, this is off Gavina. Gavina is north of the 210. Basically, if you take Maclay, it turns into Harding and then Gavina, and that's the area where we have mandatory evacuations. The wind has died down just a little bit from when we were here earlier, where we're really getting hammered. Right now, we've got some calm air. Boy, we will take that, trust me, but this is an extremely dangerous fire. It's the Canyon Fire, over 1,000 acres. It's burning in the area up in the Angeles National Forest, north of Pacoima, Lakeview Terrace, and Sylmar. That just gives you a general idea where it's at. But with these high winds, all of these homes are threatened. There are evacuations right now in between Little Tujunga Canyon Road and Sayre. So that is a large area up against and north of the 210 that they are starting to try and get evacuations in. Also, there's a lot of areas up here in Cagle Canyon to the north side of the flame that you're seeing. And in that area, there's a lot of ranch-style homes. They have horses. They're difficult to get out quickly. But this is an extremely dangerous fire because of the winds. It's a wind-driven blaze. We don't know that we've lost homes yet, but certainly there is that potential. We will keep you updated on this from here. We're not seeing the devastation that we saw out in Ventura as far as loss of homes is concerned, but it has the potential to do that. It's growing very quickly. LA County Fire is hitting it with helicopters. We saw the Super Scoopers at Van Nuys Airport. They're getting ready to get in here, but I don't know how effective they will be with these types of high winds, if they'll be able to get low enough to make effective drops or not. There was a sky crane at Van Nuys Airport, didn't fire up yet. We hope he gets going quickly because we know how useful and effective the sky crane can be as far as a helicopter water drop is concerned. So you see a mad dash on some of the roadways. We'll show you on SkyMap 7 exactly where that lays out. That is Gavin Road right there, and folks are trying to get out of this area quickly because this fire is going to be extremely tough to stop, especially if we get an ember or a hot spot that comes down into one of the neighborhoods and starts a home on fire. That's what really makes these things take off. That's what spreads out resources and structure protection as far as firefighters are concerned, and that's the kind of thing you have when you have these high 30, 40-mile-an-hour winds out of the north. That can happen. When that happens, boy, it can really be tough, and you lose a lot of homes. Right now, we don't know that we've lost any. We heard about a couple of structures that went up, but this is an extremely dangerous fire. It's in a very, very tough area, burning down out of the Angeles National Forest, right up towards Pacoima and Lakeview Terrace. So we will keep an eye on it, but boy, we really are frightened about the potential that this fire can have.
All right, Scott, thank you very much for that. That is certainly not good news, but we're going to swing back over to the Thomas Fire in Ventura County. Thousands of homes are under mandatory evacuation order right now. Those evacuations are spread across several neighborhoods in Santa Paula and Ventura. In all, more than 27,000 people have been ordered to leave the fire zone. This is all very fluid, and that number could go up.
2 evacuation centers have been set up. There's one at the Ventura County Fairgrounds. The Miners Building is taking people in. They also have an animal shelter for all types of animals. That's at 10 West Harbor Boulevard in the city of Ventura. There's also an evacuation center at Nordhoff High School in Ojai.
And class has been canceled today for many schools in the fire zone. That includes the entire Ventura Unified School District, the Santa Paula Unified School District, and the Oxnard School District. Classes also canceled at 11 schools in the Hueneme Unified School District. Thomas Aquinas College, near where the fire started, also closed. All students there were evacuated, and they are accounted for.
And then take a look at this. The Thomas Fire destroyed Vista Del Mar Hospital in Ventura overnight. You saw Sid Garcia there earlier in our show. All patients and staff were evacuated from the behavioral health care facility last night. It was an 83-bedroom facility. Again, everyone made it out safely. The building was left to burn, though, as firefighters responded to other threatened structures. And that is not to criticize the firefighters. There are so many things that it's just futile, and you just have to move on.
Right.
And it's just that's got to be tearing them up.
Yeah, they have to cut their losses sometimes. But much of this firefight today is going to depend on the winds, and they are bad. Leslie Lopez has more.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, and you're just talking about the firefighting effort. And when we see winds that are gusting of 40 miles per hour, again, it's very hard to put the water on the flames. I mean, the winds blow the water away, and we are looking at about 22-mile-per-hour sustained winds in Oxnard. But let me just talk about the gusts. The gusts right now through the Thomas Fire, we just clocked in another gust of 63 miles per hour. So that's through the Ventura area. There's the fire burning in Cagle Canyon. Moments ago, we clocked in a gust of 66 miles per hour. Earlier through that area, it was a 78-mile-per-hour gust. So again, it looks like the winds are only increasing in velocity. When we talk about the incredible, tremendous amount of velocity, I mean, this is like being in a wind tunnel. For a lot of these firefighters, they can't even open their eyes. We see our reporters wearing those protective goggles. I mean, that is what we're dealing with. And it's very hard to get in front of a fire that's moving that fast. So for firefighters, I mean, it is chasing the fire. And unfortunately, with those embers that are starting to spread out everywhere, chasing that fire means chasing it in a lot of different directions as those embers move miles apart. And we're noticing right now that there are even stronger winds through the area. 24-mile-per-hour sustained winds through the Burbank area, stronger winds in Corona and Ontario, San Bernardino, Fontana, through the Inland Empire, Chino. You're seeing some sustained winds of 25. But again, the wind velocities are only going to increase. We've been seeing those winds increase through Sylmar. Sylmar is below where that Cagle Canyon is. And if you think about canyons and passes, we always say it, through the canyons and passes, the winds are the strongest. And so we are seeing stronger winds through Cagle Canyon. Unfortunately, again, that's where we're seeing that 66-mile-per-hour gust through the area. We're going to see the winds. This is our future forecast. So I want to jump you ahead a little bit. As we're making your way into about noon to 2 o'clock this afternoon, the winds velocities start to decline a tiny bit. I wouldn't say a whole lot. And at 4 p.m., they start to increase yet again, and that continues on all the way through the evening. And unfortunately, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, there's another burst of very strong winds. So these Santa Ana conditions are sticking around all the way through Thursday night. Our forecast for Ventura area, sustained winds at 38 through this morning and the early afternoon. The later afternoon hours, it declines to 36, not much of a decline at all. And then at 8 p.m., they go down to about 25, only to increase yet again at 11 p.m. to that 30 mark. So again, we're looking and talking about very strong winds throughout the day. So there's not much help in terms of winds for firefighters today. 39 for Santa Paula, 28 at noon, 22 at 4 p.m., 22-mile-per-hour winds at 8 p.m., only increasing stronger at 11 p.m. tonight. Sylmar, the strongest winds here are 41 right now. We're looking at 38 sustained at noon, 34 at 4 p.m. I mean, these are just incredible force winds. And again, very hard to get in front of it as as those embers just go way out in front of the fire. And unfortunately for firefighters, it means that fires spring up all around them. So we are concerned for them. We're concerned for everybody that's trying to evacuate right now. We are going to also notice, I just want to give you humidity levels, because those are the two biggest components that firefighters are dealing with. The humidities are just dry. And right now it's only 6:30, just about 6:30 in the morning. And by the time we're heading into your afternoon, this 12% relative humidity is going to drop way down into the single-digit category. So, I mean, there's just no moisture in the air whatsoever to help out the firefighters today. In addition to temperatures, well, we have a cool Santa Ana, and whenever we talk about December and January being the months where we see some of the strongest Santa Anas, it's a cool Santa Ana with the strongest winds. We just need that cold air out in the desert. We have it. That's increasing the velocities of these winds, but temperatures will stay into the 50s this morning, low 70s this afternoon. But again, we are not seeing the temperatures as a big contributing factor to this. It's going to be the winds, and really there's not much in the way of getting support on the ground for firefighters or trying to put these fires out. And unfortunately, here we are dealing with a Santa Ana that is just, Mother Nature's just too difficult to handle this today. Guys, I'll send it back over to you. But unfortunately, we don't have much in the way of good news as far as those winds calming down for the next couple days.
All right, Les, thanks very much. But we do have hundreds of evacuees. They've arrived at Ventura County Fairgrounds. Sid Garcia has some new information for us. Sid.
Here's what we know so far. At about 7 o'clock this morning, everybody who is in charge of basically gathering the intelligence, if you will, all the information, they're going to meet about 7 o'clock and then have a news conference here about 8 o'clock in the morning. That's tentative right now to basically update us on all the numbers, acreage burn, things along that line. The latest we have so far, as you've been reporting, 31,000 acres burned so far. To give you an idea how big that is, from Santa Paula to here, that is a 14-mile stretch of acreage that has been burned. Think about it, 14 miles of acreage has been burned. That's what 31,000 acres is like, to give you an idea how big that is. Let's clear up one thing. The fatality that was reported earlier, it turns out it was a dog, not a person. There was a rollover accident during the evacuations early on. When the fire burned through the area where they thought this fatality was, investigators went in to check things out. What they found was not a person that had died, but a dog. So no fatalities here, but a lot of damage. The official count right now is 150 structures destroyed. That's everything from outbuildings to homes. But officials here are telling us they know that number is going to rise significantly when they get their briefing at 7 o'clock this morning. Now, at least 1,000 firefighters from all over the Central Coast and Southern California are here battling this blaze. More have been ordered. As far as the air assault, as soon as daybreak hits, that's when it's going to begin, and that's when firefighters are hoping to start to get the upper hand on this blaze. Reporting live from the Ventura County Fairgrounds, I'm Sid Garcia, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Sid, thank you very much for that. 6:29 in the morning. I'm Leslie Sykes along with Philip Palmer, and we are following these two breaking news stories, two big fires. One, the Thomas fire in Ventura County, the biggest fire with the most destruction. The second, the Creek fire, and that is burning out of control as well, with some tougher winds going on in that fire.
Right, I think you hit it most. Thomas right now has already been most destructive, but Sylmar is threatening to be equally so. Mark Cota-Robles has been standing by covering this throughout the morning. This neighborhood, Mark, you saw some houses initially that were fine, and while you've been there, you've watched them burn to the ground.
And Philip, it's just heartbreaking to see that behind us here you have a couple homes that are still standing, which is great to see. A firefighter here in the driveway of this home a moment ago was dousing some water in what may have been the garage of this property, trying to put out any hot spots to make sure embers, when the winds kick up, don't start another home on fire like that neighboring property. But we're going to do a circle here, and you can see every home here in this cul-de-sac on La Cumbre Circle with a view over the Pacific Ocean and Highway 126. Every home here at the top of this cul-de-sac has burned. 5 homes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that have burned here at the top of the cul-de-sac. And that home right there, Philip, is the home that we saw over an hour ago now, that when we were standing here, only a portion of the roof line next to the garage was catching fire, and now it's a complete lost fire tearing through the entire property. And if we pan down this driveway actually to our left, you can see a structure as well now just standing, and a couple men down there, not sure if those are residents or firefighters kind of assessing the area. But wow, here comes another breeze, and all of those embers that are blowing the embers away from us further west. I want to show you High Point Drive, and let's walk down there because that's what we started with when we came.
Okay, Mark's signal is breaking up. Just to give people an example or an idea, think about all of the things in your yard that have just been blown around, and firefighters are fighting fire in those types of conditions. Brandy hit a couple of miles away from Mark Cota-Robles, and she's seen equal damage and devastation.
You know what, Philip and Leslie, I've covered hurricanes and tropical storms, and at times with these gusty winds, you have to kind of take that stance. That's how intense this is. We're still here on Foothill, and take a look. You can see the flames over my shoulder. Homes are burning in that direction. They're coming up behind us here at Foothill and Endora. If you live in Ventura, this is the neighborhood where we are. There will be one home standing, but most of this street is burning right now, and that fire is getting pushed this direction by all of those winds. We had to move moments ago. My photographer getting hit with a tumbleweed in the middle of all this. Excuse that happening. You can see more fire crews. They're arriving here on scene, and to the left across the street, we were on that side of the road maybe about 15-20 minutes ago, where a home is gone, engulfed, and the reason we had to move is there's a power pole right in front. If you can see where the fire's burning in the middle of it, the tumbleweeds making their way across. There's a power pole that's about to come down. It's pretty much almost wiped through, and a former firefighter came by and said, you guys need to get out of here because these power lines could come down at any moment. So we moved across the street here. Unfortunately, they don't have a handle on the fire anywhere over here either, as you've been hearing from Mark and all the other reporters. The winds continue to just be the biggest problem. And the embers, I'm going to have Brian Dunn, if he comes around back over here, just little embers like this. I've never been burned before. Got an ember on my ear today for the first time, because when the winds pick up, I'll stop Brian right here. This is what is blowing across the street. This is what is starting a new fire. And look at that palm tree go up in the distance over there all of a sudden, with the embers flying in our direction, and all of those palm fronds that burn. That is what's flying across the street into other neighborhoods and catching more homes on fire. The intensity of this with the winds, it's hard to even see a quarter mile down the road because of just how thick the smoke is. It's pretty much filled your masks. You try to protect yourself with the masks that we wear, but there's no denying this is going to have an impact on the fire crews as more of them head out to continue to try and stop this fire from spreading. Philip and Leslie, as I toss it back to you, I believe I've lost communication in my ear. It's intense is all I can describe. I've never seen anything like this in quite a while, and you just feel for every one of these families watching right now who knows that's their home. That's their home. They've lost it all.
All right, Brandy, hopefully if you can hear, please stay vigilant. We do want you safe as you continue to do this wonderful reporting for us. Let's get to Scott Reif in Air 7 HD for our other fire, which is burning out of control and dealing with those gusty winds. Scott. I don't know if Scott is hearing us, but
this is right off Covina Road. Not sure if you still have me there. If you do, you can see the head of the fire and how close it is to some of the homes here. What we want to do, though, is we're going to pan to the right a little bit and show you just how much smoke is laying down into this area. And then we're going to go to the daylight view that lets us look through the smoke with SkyMap 7, which is just incredible. And we're going to continue to go to the right. You're going to see a little dot right there. We're going to push in. We have reports that home right there is on fire. That's at Terabella and Luanda. Now, we can't get in there to take a look because the smoke is so heavy. We'll pull out of the shot and now show you what we're looking at as we come off of all that smoke, and so we'll go back to the left and show you the head of the fire. But boy, respiratory problems, if you have those, you're in trouble today. This fire right down to the ground, and the smoke, I should say, right down to the ground, right down to Van Nuys Airport with visibility down to 1 mile because of the smoke. Now, this area right here here as well, just off Gavina and Pacoima Trail Road. That is in jeopardy. They're trying to hit this with the helicopters. Hopefully the super scoopers can get in here as well. But it is just frightening what we're seeing. With these high winds, we're just hoping we don't see a spot fire onto one of these houses, because if we do, that changes everything. You have to back up, start to fight the fire there. And we know that we have one home on fire. Pan to the right a little bit. I think I see a little bit of a loom up, and it may be a home. If you come to the right just a little bit more and come off SkyMap 7, push in right there in the center of your screen. Right there in the center, that could be, it showed us that there were homes in that area, and that could possibly be a structure. You see the transformers that blew, so there's a lot of areas in here that we just can't see because of the smoke, but we do believe we may be losing houses here as well, and just more of a very sad story with these conditions that we have to deal with today. There's an LA County fire ship there trying to get in to make a drop, but that is the area that they have most of concern for, is just to the north side of the 210 at Maclay, basically. And tragically, unfortunately, we do believe that at least one home has been lost. When we see that black smoke there, sometimes that will indicate one of those homes is on fire as well. So you can see that's Gavina Road. We'll go back to SkyMap 7. You can see, though, just how close it is to all of those homes and just how difficult the battle is with these high winds.
Scott, that graphic that you see right there, 1,000 plus acres, we've now just received an update. It's 2,500 acres burning. So wow. The new number there, 2,500 acres. It has doubled in size from the air to the ground. Let's go to Christina Salvo. She's covering the Cagle Canyon fire as well. And Christina, I'm sure it's not hard for you to imagine that it's over double what it was just within our last update.
Yeah, no, it's not surprising at all, Philip, but definitely with these winds, it's not surprising. You can see just how gusty they are, but very devastating to hear that it has expanded to that kind of acreage. I'll tell you, the flames are worse where Scott was, up by those homes just further up the road. Firefighters just told us that that's where the flames are the largest, but they're actually most concerned about this area where we are because of the fire behind us and just the fact that the fire is pretty much surrounding Cagle Canyon Road where we are, kind of by Peters Road, Blue Sage Road, and it's just all over the place. So they're having a little bit of trouble figuring out which area to concentrate on and where to focus, because it's just kind of surrounding all the homes in this area. Now, sadly, we did learn, firefighters just told me right now coming down this road that at least 4 to 5 homes have been lost further up the roadway. Very sad news to have to report, but at least 4 to 5 homes have burned further up Cagle Canyon. Again, now 2,500 acres. Mandatory evacuations are underway. Now, evacuation orders that are mandatory are north of the 210 freeway. Little Tahunga to Sayre is mandatory, and then Sayre to the 514 split is voluntary. So just be alert. This is being called the Creek Fire. Now, from where we are right now, it's a little hard to see the flames just because of the thick smoke. In the last half hour, I'd say, or so, the view has changed for us. We were seeing huge flames, very clear, very crystal clear. Now those flames are laying down just a little bit. We're now seeing very thick smoke around us, and it's getting a little bit more, the visibility is decreasing, I'll say that. But the good news is that a lot of the neighbors in this area, the residents in this area, do seem like they've evacuated. We've seen 3 or 4 horse trailers be brought through this area. We've seen the horses be loaded up, so that's good to be able to report that at least some of the horses in this area have been safely evacuated, dogs as well. Now, I know that there were some calls for assistance along these routes. We're not sure if that was people trapped inside their homes because of flames that couldn't get out, or possibly people who were a little disabled and needed more help getting out. But there were some firefighters up here going around to assist people to evacuate. Also, lots of police officers for the last hour and a half or so going through each of these little streets to make sure everybody knew that they had to get out, that the flames were close, just to make sure that nobody needed any help as they got out and got to safety. But you saw it from the sky, what it looks like with those flames. This is what it kind of looks like from the ground. Very heavy smoke. We've obviously had to put on our masks, our goggles, and you've seen my hat just about fly off. These gusts are very intense. Speak Speaking of, but that's the latest from Lakeview Terrace. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Yeah, certainly difficult to speak in those gusty winds. Christina, thank you so much. And watching those homes burning to the ground is devastating, but certainly as frightening as the weather forecast with Leslie Lopez. It's going to be rough, Les.
Oh, unfortunately, there's really no good news here as far as the winds are concerned. We are looking at a slight decline in velocity later on this afternoon, but it's only for a short period. We get right back to some gusty weather tonight and then another round tomorrow night. So this red flag warning that we see in place stretching from Santa Barbara all the way down to San Diego County and inland towards our desert communities, all of Southern California in it. We are looking at that continuing on for us all the way through Thursday evening. It expires at midnight on Thursday into Friday morning. So again, we are looking at this red flag warning. That means we have very strong winds. We have also very low humidities. Now, to give you an idea of Santa Ana's, we get some of our strongest Santa Anas during the months of December and January. So this isn't unusual to get a strong Santa Ana, but it is unusual to just see some of the wind gusts that are associated with this. We are looking at earlier this morning, 78-mile-per-hour gusts rolling through the area of Sylmar where Christina's at. Now, Christina's at a little bit lower elevation, but just above her, 78-mile-per-hour gust was clocked. And then another 66-mile-per-hour gust clocked through the Thomas Fire area. So it is just big concerns because also, unfortunately, these winds don't really let up through the next day and a half or so. We are looking at some strong gusty winds. The fire did start in Santa Paula and has moved in that northeasterly, at least the winds are northeasterly, and so it's moved in that westerly direction out towards the coastline. And so those concerns are going to be how far does it travel? Will it burn all the way out to the coastline? And right now it is getting close. And you can also think of in terms of how fast a fire is moving, where that nose of a fire is. If the sustained winds are moving at 25 miles per hour, that means that fire is also trekking at that same rate. Unfortunately, when we talk about firefighters trying to get in front of a fire and put out the fire with a rate of speed at 25 or more, with gusts anywhere from 45 to 50, you really can't get in front of the fire. And the embers travel just so far in all directions that getting on top of this and really trying to put it out is going to be such a challenge. And unfortunately, I wish I could say in just a few short hours the winds are going to die down, but that won't be the case for today, nor will it be the case for tomorrow. Northeasterly winds at 17 through Sylmar. We're looking at some strong gusty winds there, but again, just above where we're talking about that Cagle Canyon, we always, discuss through the canyons, through the passes, we have some of the strongest winds. Well, that'll be the case through the Cagle Canyon area. Right about 4 p.m., the winds take a little bit of a decline in velocity, but watch what happens. I put the clock back in motion. 8, 9, 10 o'clock this evening, we have more of those strong winds moving through the same areas, through the canyons, through the passes, through Malibu, through Ventura, through the Inland Empire, out to Orange County spots as well. And here's how it all plays out for Ventura. Unfortunately, we say that about 6 a.m. we've been looking at about anywhere from 38-mile-per-hour sustained winds through the Thomas Fire. That continues through noon. 4 p.m. they quiet down to 36, not much of a change. And then right at about 8 p.m. 25 to increase again at 11 p.m. Back up into the 30s. So again, this is a Santa Ana condition. If we can categorize the Santa Ana, it would be one of the highest, strongest Santa Anas that we would ever get. And so here we are. Santa Paula, we're looking at 39-mile-per-hour sustained winds, 28 at noon, declining to the 20s by the time we're hitting 4 p.m., but only to increase yet again at 11 p.m. And then over into areas of Sylmar, where Christina Salvo is, 41 down to 38 at noon, and then continuing to decline to 34 at 4 p.m. and 8 p.m., only to increase yet again at 11 p.m. When we talk about such gusty winds as well, I mean, it's like being in a wind tunnel with all this ash, ember moving around. Very hard for firefighters to open their eyes. You'll see people wearing a lot of protective eye gear. You're seeing that with our reporters as well. Unfortunately, it also means that it's hard to get an edge on this fire, and so for the next 48 hours, it is going to be a very critical level for not only the people on the ground, but also in the air. Talking to Scott Reif, we have these bursts of gusts of around 50 miles per hour. They go down to 0. That makes it very, very much a treacherous commute too up in the air. So the concerns remain that this wild weather, and again, this is going to be the most critical we see our Santa Anas, continues for the next couple of days. And I wish wish there was better news to report, but unfortunately there's just not with the winds, guys. Humidity levels also a big concern. I can show you that. 11% relative humidity, only to decline to 1% potentially this afternoon in some areas. So single digits are on the way, so it only gets drier. That does not help firefighters out at all. We don't have hot temperatures, but with situation and concerns with the winds and the humidity, that's not going to be a help anyway. I'd send it back over to you, but you can see the nose of that fire just moving towards homes, and it's getting closer and closer. And before long, you're going to see that move through that area, unfortunately.
Okay, Leslie, thank you. So Air 7 HD is what's happening in Sylmar, and as the sun comes up, you can really see the fire, the devastation, and how dangerous this is. But now we're going to go to the Thomas fire. That's the one in Ventura County. And in that location on the ground, Brandy Hitt has watched these it's hard to say these conditions deteriorate when they were so bad from the beginning, Brandy.
They were, Philip, and we continue to get these insane gusts of winds coming in our direction. If there's any good and hope for the families who have homes here, we're hearing some of the helicopters circle in the area, and I know a lot of people are praying for some airdrops if they can do it, because look behind me, you see these homes still burning, destroyed. I can't even count the number of homes up on this hill that are now gone. But if you look right below them, you see some of these homes here that have not burned yet, but there are embers that are moving into their yard. And there's a danger, as you can see these embers flying around, of them catching on fire. Now, we did see a couple of fire crews moments ago go up this road here, this direction, and you can see them up on the hill. They're obviously doing some structure protection, trying to save the homes that have not burned yet. This is just one direction. Go ahead, Brian, look to your right. You got a helicopter surveying, maybe trying to get some direction into where they can make a drop. These families really need it. In fact, we might be in a drop zone right now that I think about it. He's going to drop right now. Let's stand by. There's the alarm. Right beyond that tree. And he's beyond in the smoke. It's hard to see him because there's so much thick smoke that this fire has created its own weather. In fact, I'm going to let Brian know there's another helicopter coming in the same direction, Brian, from your right, that's coming in right now to also help with this situation. This is a critical area of this fire, Philip and Leslie, because they want to save the homes that are down the hill. These homes on the hill are so many of the ones that have burned right now. And once this fire has crossed Foothill, which it has in some areas, it heads down the hill and there are hundreds of more homes. It's hard to see those choppers and all that smoke. And I'm going to have Brian turn around and I'll show you what I'm talking about when we talk about down the hill. The embers have been flying this direction, and they're catching homes on this side. And Brian and I have been in the thick of it all morning long, where the fire has been crossing this major street here in Ventura, and hundreds of homes are down in that direction. We've seen some burn, but not a lot. This is the main area of the fire that they're trying to prevent. And we're talking about Endora and Foothill. We are about maybe a little bit southeast of Day, where we were earlier. So if you know you're on Endora and Foothill, I can tell you there are about maybe 5 homes here at the base that have not burned. And here's somebody walking down the hill right now. Do you live here, sir? Your ex-wife, you came to check on their house?
Yeah, she's in Hawaii.
She's in Hawaii. And which house is her house one of these here?
It's up at the top. It's gone, supposedly, from what our neighbor says. So.
I'm so sorry.
It is what it is. At least everybody's out.
Yeah.
Everybody's safe, so that's the important thing. So.
Okay. Please tell her, send our best to her. We're so sorry.
Sure.
So that's this is one of the first residents we've run into here at the scene. Everyone did get out, it sounds like, as far as the evacuations go, but we've been seeing people here sporadically show up to check on their house. And unfortunately, as you just heard, his ex-wife's home, she's on vacation, is gone, Philip and Leslie.
That is
the resignation,
yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess to a certain degree you understand,
right?
Is what it is,
it is,
but that doesn't make it easy.
Grasp. It is very hard to wrap your mind around it.
Heartbreaking.
See it firsthand. It's surreal. Brandy, thank you so much for that. And let's swing on over to the Creek Fire. Scott Reif and Air 7 HD. And this is promising to be devastating as well with those wind gusts there. 2,500 acres at this point, Scott.
has the potential to take out a lot of homes. We hope that is not the case. We heard of one home that was on fire. There's an LA City fire ship flying to the center of your screen. He may make a drop here. This is just off Gavina Road, which is north of the 210, south of Cagle Canyon. We want to come to the right a little bit and push in right there on those high flames right off of that road. We'll go to SkyMap 7. And once it jumps Gavina, we're going to have a problem because look at all the homes in this area. And as we pan to the right slowly, it's been picking up some steam here. We go further to the right, and you're going to see a neighborhood that it is very, very close to. Via San Diego, fire is very close to those homes. There's some structure protection in place. The helicopters are making drops, but the high winds make it nearly impossible to stop this fire. So it'll actually be a miracle if we don't lose some structures and some homes in here. We heard of one that went up in smoke, but we couldn't see it, or up in flames, I should say, but we couldn't see it because of the smoke. I want to come out to a bit of a wider shot, and I also want to let you know this is unprecedented. Van Nuys Airport down to half a mile visibility. They're under VFR conditions. Burbank Airport under VFR conditions. They're down to 5,000-foot runway visibility, which is usually what we have in a heavy fog condition. That gives you an idea how unhealthy the air is. If you have respiratory problems, do not go outside. This is the worst I've ever seen, to be honest with you, because all the smoke is just sitting right down on the ground. It's not going up in the air. It's not dissipating. It's hitting an inversion layer. And when you have only a half a mile visibility because of smoke, that's right down onto the ground. It will cause problems. It almost makes us sick when we have to fly through it. I want to open up a little bit and go to the right, and then I want to bring up our view where we go to the daytime view, and it shows what we're looking at in there. Now, we can't see through the smoke, but if we go to the daytime view, it'll show us. Push right in there at Maclay and Edger, Fullerton, all of those areas just south of there on the bottom of your screen. That's where all those homes are, and those homes right now will come off of that and go to our live shot from Air 7. They are all in jeopardy because of this fire. We'll go to the left a little bit more, show you the head of the fire burning out of Cagle Canyon, down into Pacoima, Lakeview Terrace, Sylmar. That's the area that is still really under mandatory evacuations. The evacuations north of the 210 from Little Tujunga Canyon Road to Sayre. Now, that's a large area. Sycamore Recreation Center is one of the areas you can go, or Sunland Senior Center. They have been set up to take people that have been evacuated. But this fire right now has a potential, unfortunately, to take out a lot of homes. The winds actually in the last little bit have calmed down a little bit, so that's a help. But what we see with these conditions, you know, one moment it doesn't seem too bad, and the next moment we've got another 30, 40-mile-an-hour gust out of the north. So we're keeping our fingers crossed with this one that it doesn't turn out to be as devastating as what we're seeing in Ventura, but it certainly has the potential to. I think we'll get some tankers in here pretty soon, but look at that. Once it jumps Gavina Road, that's really a problem. Pan to the right a little bit. The bottom of your screen, you see homes, and look at that neighborhood there. We try to push in as much as we can, but it's difficult to see if they have good structure protection in place because of the smoke. This is a wind-driven fire, but lots of times we see the smoke dissipate. It's hitting an inversion layer, and it's not. It's just laying right down on top of those homes. You do see a fire unit there trying to get into place. We'll go to the left a little bit and give you an idea. Look at the fire there taking that tree, and then look how close it is to those homes. So I think we really have a battle on our hands right now to save some of these homes. It's going to be extremely difficult, and the fire seems to be picking up steam, even though the winds have died down a little bit. When you get over 2,500 areas, the exposure exponentially has grown so big it's hard to get resources in place quick enough. They're doing a fantastic job. The helicopters are making water drops. I don't know if the Super Scoopers can be effective in these types of winds. We will find out, but I'm not too sure that they can fly down into this area through the smoke and make a drop. It's hard enough for the helicopters, and they have to move them out when they do that. I think the helicopters are going to be most effective, and they are going to save some of these homes. Push into that hot spot. There was a concern. We had an address. It was at Terabella, and it was Luana, I believe, and there was a home reported to be on fire. That's about the approximate location. Let's go back to the daylight view, if we can, Jordan, and see exactly where that is. Now, fortunately, it looks like that exact spot. Isn't that awesome how we can bring that up? Isn't that incredible? That exact spot is actually up there, it appears, in some brush, but very close to that neighborhood right there. We'll come back out of that shot, go to our live shot, and it gives you an idea what we're dealing with. That's a way that we can actually see with SkyMap 7 where the fire is burning through the smoke. And I don't think anybody else has that capability. It's pretty phenomenal in helping us to see what's going on. What we can see, though, as we go back to the left, this area right in here is pretty suspect. It seems like it may have died down just a bit, but once it jumps Gavina Road, it's right up towards the home. See that area there we showed you moments ago?
Well, Scott,
that fire is, and it's right up next to the houses.
Scott, if you hold that shot right there, SkyMap 7 is also, you know, you'd mentioned the danger of Gavina. You can see spot fires already over in between Villa San Diego and Villa San Felipe. You can see little spot fires already moving across there, which is the danger area you were talking about. And another side note, just to give folks an idea as to everyone that's affected by this fire, in La Crescenta, we've just gotten word that there are power outages there as a result of some of the things that are going on. So Scott, I mean, the Thomas fire is horrific. This, too, has the potential to be equally.
Joy.